Welcome to Living Once Twice, a lifestyle design and personal adventure podcast. My name is Justin. Come with me as I'm here to help you chart your course for creating the fulfilling life you desire. Join me as every Wednesday we'll dive into the inspiring guest stories, remarkable science, and useful strategies to help you create the momentum you need to take action towards designing your dream life. Remember, your dream life is waiting for you. It's time to go for it. You deserve it. Greetings all. Welcome back to Living Once Twice, the place where we rewrite narratives, reinvent ourselves, or reimagine our lives. Before we dive in, just a reminder, if you're enjoying the show, I'll be grateful for your support by sharing the Living Once Twice podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Living Once Twice for more content updates. This is it. This is the season finale. This episode is the last episode of season 8. So per my usual Libra self, I'm going to take time to reflect, recharge, and reload over the next few months so I can bring you season 9 in the fall. Very excited, though, about some of the ideas I got cooking up, guests for the future. So be sure to stay tuned on the Instagram, as I'll also be dropping a survey of some guest topics as well, and just more information to keep you thriving along until the next season kicks off. But as usual with the final episode, I like to take the time to just reflect and recap. As this season, it was a beautiful journey and a lesson of responsibility for our lives and what comes with that. And it's really what the very first universal way of oneness taught by spiritual teacher and one of our guests, Rachel Fiore. And perhaps you're like me when you look at, say, your rearview mirror, the road that you've walked thus far, and maybe you're not too proud of it. You could have fallen short. Maybe you remained under your potential. Maybe you halved it and you've produced a lot of results that you're just not proud of. As guest Io Oshika talked about, he walked us through his journey, being a convicted felon, use of weed, dropping out of college, just being broke, living under his potential, and not really applying his full self until he made a decision. And made a decision that direction that his life was headed wasn't going to be a fulfilling one. And so he started to earnestly apply himself. And we all get to see the result of that in his interview, talking about how he went from being broke to essentially launching $1 million business. And one of the greatest takeaways about that, as we're in the season of responsibility, is that even if you've fallen short, you're only, as Io talked about, one hit away, one step away from turning your life around. And this could be applied in so many different areas of our life, because I know that we're only a couple months into the new year. Many of us had goals, aspirations that we set. We were really high on the inspiration meter, but life has come life-in, and it's knocked us off course. It's taken us a couple steps backward. Maybe you're not as consistent with your health journey, your weight loss journey as you hoped. Maybe you haven't had the chance to really dive into creating that business that you want to launch. Maybe in the relationship world, whether it's in marriage or in intimate relationships or in friendships, things just haven't been going smooth and steady. Maybe the road's a little bit more rocky. And even in your relationship with yourself on an emotional and mental level, you're not as secure as you hoped you would have been. And you realize that you really have more self-love to pump into yourself. I promise you that you can turn your life, you could turn this year still into something meaningful, something powerful. The harvest is not yet done for you. You could still plant those seeds of work in this moment, at this time, and still reap an incredible harvest this fall, for example. But as guest Dr. Hawkins shared that in his episode, is you have to train yourself for this. You can't just try. You can't just half-heart it. And listen, that's my journey, and that's still my journey. I mean, that's what the foundation of living once, twice is. I have a past that I am not proud of, as I've talked about throughout this podcast, one driven by sin, shortcomings, failure, bare minimum living, toxic habits, one that's also been driven by fear and ego and insecurities. And I've missed the mark in many areas of my life. But as I learned through Rachel's book and Dr. Hawkins, and among others, including my walk of spirituality, chasing God's heart, being accountable to my higher power, you and I cannot let the guilt, the shame, the regrets, the transgressions, the wounds, the childhood wounds of our past be the obituary of our life. While what's written in your past may still be present in your life, it does not need to be your present and future. And I'll repeat that. While what's written in your past may still be present in your life, it does not need to be your present and future. Reinvention is possible for us at any age. And sometimes the circumstance of your life, the circumstances going on in your life, it could be the wake up call that you need to get back on that road of reinvention for yourself, rewriting your own narrative, reimagining your life. I love guest Julie Randall, how she spoke about being diagnosed with cancer at 50. And then after beating cancer, and in her incredible story, which included her just taking no for an answer when that clinical trial she wanted to join turned her down. But she said that in her recovery, she realized how much more she had to give, had to do, had to become, could become. And while the monsters of the mind will tell you, telling her that you're too old, it might be telling you that you're too young, that you don't have the credentials, you don't have the qualifications to be a speaker, a podcaster, a writer, a boss, an entrepreneur. It might be telling you that you can't lose that weight, or you can't find love after loss, or after a failed marriage or relationship, or some other limiting belief you may hold. As Julie mentioned, you wouldn't have the desire planted in you if you weren't capable of its achievement. Coach Brina Bain also talked about this too this season as it relates to those of you who are, say, aspiring to start your own business, but you're worried about what's the outside world going to think? What are they going to think of you? How are they going to judge you for creating a coaching practice, but you're only 25, 30, becoming a YouTuber, but you were that quiet kid in high school, or whatever other limiting belief or worry that you have. As both Brittany and Julie mentioned this, you have to tap into that spirit of courage that lives inside of you to push beyond that mindset. Going back to the book by Bonnie Ware, The 5 Regrets of the Dying, the most common regret is I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. When people at that stage in that book talked about the end of their lives, how many of their dreams had gone unfulfilled, how many of them had died knowing that they made choices that were really at the whims of how others were going to think of them. It's very important for you and I to realize we've got to push beyond that. Listen, you have a calling, you have a purpose, you have God-given talents, experiences, visions that only you can fully realize. So with the breath that's in your lungs, that beat that's in your heart, you have to go deeper than that fear of being inadequate or that fear of being judged. And when you go deeper than that, you are going to find that you are more powerful beyond measure because you are a spiritual being first, and your capabilities, your capacities are infinite. I'll also add that when it comes to reinvention, the old masks that you once wore, the ones that deep down you know that don't serve you, they don't have to come with you either in this season of reinvention of your life. Even if between January and March of this year, you've still been wearing them, they don't need to come with you. Our guest and creator of Barbershop Yoga, Rondi Isaac, explained that through the process of becoming still with yourself, allowing your true voice to come to the surface, and just coming still and back to yourself of self-discovery of becoming you again, those old, those toxic, those limiting beliefs, they can be let go. Maybe you've been the people pleaser, the one that goes along to get along, the person that, like me, sometimes you say yes to something, but then 2 minutes later, you're like, I know I'm going to cancel. Right? Just because your spirit doesn't feel aligned. As you train yourself in allowing that inner voice to rise again, trusting it, trusting you, yes, it's going to take you some practice. And there might be a couple times where you get it wrong, but eventually you'll care less and less and less about the thought of what someone's thinking and value more and more your alignment to yourself, the centering of your authentic voice and what feels right to you. And not only that, but the more doors that you close that are not working for you, that don't serve you, the more room you're giving, and you'll discover for the doors, the opportunities, the people that really do serve you, or the people that actually get it. Friends, as I prepare to wrap up this season and this episode, I just want you to understand this. This is still your moment. This is still your year. You woke up today, your heart is still beating, the sun is still shining down upon you, those birds outside, they're still singing, your ears are still listening and hearing this. Look at all those signs around you that this is not over. In the game of life, there's still time on the clock to change, to take responsibility, to make the comeback that you envisioned for yourself at the start of this year, no matter how far down you feel. And even if you take this moment by moment, minute by minute, day by day, do not quit. Do not give up hope on yourself, your dreams, your goals, that feeling of peace, that feeling of freedom, that experience of love, that experience of loving relationships, that experience of deep sense of joy, because it's still waiting for you. It's still within you. And as you keep working on yourself, you go deeper into that darkness of your fears, you'll start seeing that light. And that light is within you. That light is within all of us. And that is that light within us to manifest, to create, to build, to give, to experience, to serve. I could go on, but that light within inside of you will make the journey all worth it. So just keep pushing. So that is it for today's show. I'd like to thank you all for your presence and tuning in today, tuning in this season. If you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed this season, please show your support by sharing the Living with Twice podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Also follow us on Instagram at Living with Twice for more content updates and more incredible information as we go into the off season. But I'm reaching out to you all through the time and the space that separates us to say, remember, your dream life is waiting for you. It's time to go for it. You deserve it. Catch you later on Living Once Twice.